Hi, I'm Kendall and welcome to Annie's Crafts. Today I'm going to be taking you from I know nothing about crochet, I'm a newbie, to making your very first scarf all in this one video. I started crocheting about 7 years ago when I was 14, so I'm really excited to be sharing this with you today because the very first thing I ever made was a scarf after you make your first initial square, which is how we're going to learn our actual techniques for it. Let's talk about supplies. So the first thing I know you're excited to get is the yarn. I have my favorites linked down below that are perfect for beginners. The biggest thing you're going to look for is that it's medium weight 4. And you're like, Kendall, how do I know that? I'm online and I'm trying to find it. 1, I have them linked down below to make it nice and easy, some of my favorites. But 2, you're going to look at the label. And so you see how it just says a 4, it says medium 4 right on there? That's all you need. It needs to be a medium weight 4. This is your generic yarn. It's generally the cheapest, it's the most common. This is what we want. It's great for beginners. You're also going to need crochet hooks, which is also pretty exciting. This is my crochet starter set. I have it linked down below. It's got multiple size hooks, tapestry needles, and stitch markers. And we're going to need the tapestry needles and the hooks today. You're going to need those you're going to need the stitch markers when we do things that are a little bit more complicated or you want to keep track, and if you want to work in rounds. So in the future, if you want to make stuffed animals, definitely get the stitch markers. This comes all together. I have it linked down below. Makes it nice and easy. You don't have to worry about not having the size you need for the next project because you have them all right here. So you're going to need your crochet hook. For this, I'm using a 5.0 millimeter hook. It says right on there, if it will focus, 5 millimeter. It's also called an H hook. This is a pretty generic sized hook. It's going to be perfect for this yarn. On your yarn label, it actually says which type of hook size you can use. And as long as it's close for what we're doing, it's going to be perfect. And again, those are knitting needles. That's the crochet hook. I know you can't read that, but it says 5.5 millimeter. So ours is a little bigger, but that is a-okay, or a little smaller, excuse me. It's gonna be perfect, it's gonna work out just fine. You're gonna need your tapestry needles or yarn needles. This is just like a sewing needle, except it has a bigger eye, so it fits yarn easier. They also come in plastic, but the metal ones come in the kit in this cute little container, so you don't lose them, because I promise you, you will lose crochet tapestry needles constantly. I have so many, I bet I've lost 100 in my lifetime, if not more. You're also going to need a pair of scissors. I have these linked down below because if you're going to buy the yarn and the crochet case with all your supplies, you might as well get a new pair of scissors. And you're thinking, but I have plenty of scissors. Yes, you do. But do you have nice, fresh, sharp ones that can cut through yarn? I'd check. You want to make sure they're nice and clean and they're sharp, because you do not want to separate the strands of yarn. You don't want to have to multiple times. It's just going to shred the yarn. You want to be nice and tight. These are the Dancing Angel ones. I just think it's funny. Look at that. It's just funny. I love it, but there's a variety of scissors, and I have them all linked down below. Okay, who's excited to actually start crocheting for the first time? Because I know I am. Alrighty, before we can get too far, we have to know how to hold a hook. There are 2 main ways, and then you're going to see 100 variations of this. It does not matter which way you do it, as long as it's comfortable for you. I hold mine like a knife, which means I have it down here, and I hold it like this. I'm not squeezing it. You don't have to white knuckle it. You just kind of have to grip it. We're going to be moving it quite a bit, so you want it to be comfortable. Some people also hold it like a pencil. They do a lot of wrist movements. I do not. I'm not even going to attempt to show you that on yarn because I did that in a different video and it was not pretty, because I've done knife grip my entire life. You're going to see variations of these 2. I promise you it doesn't matter as long as it's comfortable for you. I have the tail of my yarn that I lost. Here it is. So this tutorial, I'm hoping is not too fast, but comment below if it is, that I'm also breaking this up into a bunch of small pieces. So you can also go to those videos if you find that I'm going way too fast, as well as rewinding and everything good like that. With my yarn, we're going to start by making a slip knot. To do so, you hold the yarn, take it, pinch, and twist. And then you're going to pull through your yarn. So here's my tail, which is like the dead end or the end that's not attached to anything. This is my slip knot, and this is attached to my ball. It should slide right out when you're finished. So again, I'm holding it, here's my tail, taking it and twisting it, pulling through and tightening. You're gonna put your hook into it. I am right-handed. My tail is on the right. I hold my hook in the right. I'm going through my loop from right to left. And then I'm gonna tighten it. You do not want it so tight that it can barely move and it squeaks. That is too tight. You do not want it too loose so that it's, okay, if I can even do that. I can't even show you how loose it was because my stitch was very tight. You do not want it too loose because you don't want it to slide out and get off and be overall annoying. You want it nice and snug so it can slide, because we'll be doing that a lot, but it won't fall off. I have this is my working yarn. This is how I hold my yarn. Again, just like the hook, you can hold it however you want. I like my 3 fingers like this, and it goes over, and then this is what I actually like moving my yarn for. I'm gonna get a little closer. We're gonna do a chain. A chain is the foundation of almost all crochet pieces, especially for any squares or rectangles like we'll be doing. This is my yarn I'm using to make a little swatch for crochet so we can practice our crochet. When I am ready to make our scarf, whew, that's close, I'm going to be using this beautiful Mandela yarn from Lion Brand, also linked down below. And this is going to allow us to get our scarf with really cool colors without having to learn color change right now. That's for a different video. But let's start with a chain. So I'm holding my yarn and I have my hook. I'm going to do something called a yarn over, which is when you take your working yarn, which is the yarn attached to the ball, and put it over your hook. And then I'm going to pull through. That is one chain. For this example, I'm going to chain 16. So again, I turn my hook up to catch the yarn, then I'm twisting it down to pull through. And that was chain 2. This really allows, the movement of the hook is what makes or break it as a crochet. Because if I kept it up, I'm not going to be able to grab anything. So you got to remember the twist down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I'm actually going to go with 11. There's our chain. Again, if I pulled out my hook and pulled this, it would come right out. So there's a couple different ways to go into the chains. I will be completely honest with you, it does not matter in the slightest which way you do it. Now, if people are going to tell you it matters, it matters, it matters, very, very few patterns it matters. For right now, of us learning, it doesn't matter. I just want you to crochet something. That's all that matters. So, you might be thinking, why did I chain 11 instead of 10? Well, one of the smallest, most basic, the simplest crochet stitch is called a single crochet. And a single crochet is 1 chain tall. So, at the end of this, we're only going to have 10 stitches, not 11, because we need to go up. So we have 10 chains, and this is my 11th. Instead of crocheting into the 11th, I'm going to crochet into the 10th. And this was allow us to have height instead of continuing to go horizontal. So, this was the chain I just made. This is called the second chain from the hook. You'll see that in a lot of patterns. So you're going to insert it through chain number 10. And then I'm tightening it. You should have 2 loops on your hook. This is our original one, and this is what we just put our hook into. Then you yarn over and pull through. And don't forget to twist your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and point down and pull through. Believe it or not, you just made a single crochet. I hope that wasn't too difficult. Let's show it again. So again, some people will only go through this top one. This is called the back bar. There's just different ways. I go through this top one and the back bar. I like the way this makes my edges cleaner. And again, it doesn't matter. Very, very few patterns. And I believe patterns should be interpreted how you want. Yes, and that comes from a crochet designer who writes patterns, and people use my patterns, and I still believe that you should do it however you want. So remember, I inserted, yarn over, and pulled through one loop. So now I have two. Yarn over, go through both. I am inserting, a little hard on camera, there we go. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through both. I'm going to continue that all the way down the line. Okay, almost there. Going through both, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. And that's what a single crochet is. If you need to pause this video, go ahead and do so. On my very last one. Okay. Let's make sure that we have 10. So we're counting these little ovals or V's are one stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, construction outside stopped. So now we're at the end, we have 10. We have to do another chain because we have to get taller. This is called our turning chain, and for single crochets, it's 1. So we're gonna chain 1 by pulling through, and then we turn our work. This is gonna be very similar. So this was the chain you just made, and we're gonna go into the stitch. You wanna make sure to go through both loops, because if you only go through one or the other, that's a completely different skill that we'll touch on later. And then I'm gonna make a single crochet. Oops, I got a piece of yarn stuck, there we go. So again, you insert through both loops, like that. I'm tightening this a little bit when I pull it, yarning over and pulling through, and then I pull mine up. This will ensure that your loops stay the same size and your stitches are even. So insert, yarn over, pull through, and I go up and twist through both. Then you're gonna do that all the way down. You're gonna be a single crochet master by the end of this. Okay. Pulling through. And again, go ahead and pause the video so that we can all catch up to the same speed. Almost there. This last stitch we're gonna go through might be a little tricky. Remember, it was the very first single crochet you made, so it might be a little difficult. Mine's a little loose, so I just wanna make sure I am getting through both loops. And then we're gonna do the same thing. Cool. If you want to make this taller, which you will for your practice, every time you get to the end of the row, you chain 1, you flip, and then you do your 10 single crochets. And that's really it. You just continue that until it's as tall as you want it. I'm just gonna make a little square just so I can show you how to fasten off your yarn, which is what we do when we're finished, and how we hide our tails, which makes our piece look nice and clean and it stays extra secure. So I'm gonna hop off camera and I'm gonna turn this into a little square. Because it was 10 stitches across, I'm going to do 10 rows up, just so it's even, and then I'll show you how to cut your yarn and fasten off. Alrighty, look at that. I just finished row 10. And if you're wondering, if you just started going and you have no idea how to count, one of the greatest things about single crochet is that it naturally creates these like little sets of 2. So it'd be, this was our chain with our stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And no, your chain does not count as a row in a majority of patterns, although you will find some designers, generally it is not included. So I had my chain and then I did 10 rows. And I'm all finished, but now I'm still attached. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a couple inches. I always go more than less because it's just easier. I have my scissors, I'm cutting it. And then this is the fun part. So I'm holding it, or it doesn't matter how, you can hold it however. you're just gonna pull this tail all the way through. So now your piece cannot come undone. I tightened it a little bit, you don't have to, but you have these tails. You do not just want to cut it. I assure you, your piece will fall apart then because it just goes inside and it unravels. So we're gonna do something called weaving in our tails. So I got my tapestry needle. I'm gonna take the end of yarn, put it through, okay? And there's a million different ways to weave in your ends. This is just one way to do it. If you don't like this way, find a different one. But this is what I do. I've been crocheting for a while and it hasn't failed me yet. But this is one of the biggest things I wish I learned how to do well when I was a beginner, because all my old work has now come undone because I didn't know what I was doing. So please, if you're gonna pay attention to one part of this video, please pay attention to this. Have it on my tail, and you're gonna go through your stitches. I pinched mine because I wanted to go through the fabric, and I kind of wiggle because I don't want it on top. I really want it as much as I can through the yarn. I'm pulling through. Not too tight so that this turns, but tight enough so it's not loose. So that was one direction. I'm going to go in again in the same general area, pinching and wiggling in a different direction. I read it on a blog years ago when I was trying to teach myself how to do this well. And they said, if your yarn tails in multiple areas, it's not going to come undone in multiple directions. So I think about that a lot. So that was 2. I'm not going to do a 3rd one. Depending on the project, I might do 4. Sweaters make me nervous. But you should be good after 2 or 3. And then I'm just pulling it out a little bit to make sure it's not too tight. Taking my needle off. And then I have my scissors. These are curved, which makes it a little easier. But you're just going to cut it off pretty close to your piece. If it sticks out a little bit, like mine does, you can just kind of wiggle, pull it a little bit, and it'll pull back in a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing with the other tail. Pinching and pushing through. This is why you want to leave long tails. At some point, you will make the mistake and you will cut your yarn too short, or maybe you're doing some yarn chicken, as it's called, when you're running out of yarn, but you're trying to finish a project and it'll be too short. There are different ways. Some people use like glue, like a fray glue. They use like the end of fabric to do that. Some people just use normal glue. And some people figure out a way to weave it in. I've never used glue, but I really want to. I've been really wanting to try. And again, it's really great just to be 100% certain it's not going to come out, because you worked hard on this crochet. I once made this entire blanket. It was one of the old Annie's Kit Clubs. So it was like a beautiful granny square, like mandala thing. And I completely ruined it because I didn't know how to weave in my ends. So please weave in your ends. Learn how to do that. Because look how pretty it is. This is your hard work. I don't want it to go away. Okay, how was that? Are we feeling good? Feeling a little confident? Maybe rewatch the video, do a second square, maybe make it a bit longer, a bit wider, play around with your tension, or just how tight you're pulling your yarn. Take a moment, make sure you're good. I've woven all my ends. It is not coming undone. You can pull it, tug it. Besides the stitches being a little looser, then nothing's gonna happen to this. Now you can make squares and rectangles, and you're like, okay, Kendall, what am I gonna do with little swatches? One, you're gonna wanna keep this because in 10 years, when you're like this master crocheter, you're gonna wanna show it off. I don't have mine, but I do have pictures of the very first stuffed animal I make. I'm gonna try to insert them. It's hideous, y'all. It's hideous. If you can guess what animal it is, I will, I don't know, give you a virtual high five or something. I will post a picture and then comment below what animal you think it is, because it's real ugly. But now you can make squares. And with squares, we have a lot of opportunities. Today, we're gonna be focusing on a scarf. Next time, I'm hoping to teach you a hat. Very similar skills, and yes, out of a rectangle, sewing techniques. This is the Lion Brand Yarns Mandala yarn. I have it linked below, although any of these yarns with multiple colors are gonna be great for your first scarf. because we're not changing colors, we don't have to worry about that. We're going to use the same hook we already have because, again, this is actually not medium weight 4. I touched it, I assumed it was. It's 3. See? Well, we're still going to get the same effect. I promise you a 3 versus a 4 for what we're doing doesn't really matter. If you want, you can use a smaller hook. It recommends using a 5mm, which is what we've been using. The other yarn recommended a 5.5. It's so similar. You'll get slight differences, but this is your first scarf. I'm gonna promise you it doesn't matter because once you finish it, you're gonna be wearing it around and you're gonna be telling, and people are gonna be like, I like your scarf. And you're like, oh, this one? I made it. I assure you, you will do that. And then everybody in your household and extended family will get scarves for Christmas. And then at some point, they're gonna say, please, Kendall, do not give us scarves for Christmas. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. There was not a need for scarves. There was not a need for hats, but I continued to make them anyway. So hopefully this scarf, you'll love it just as much as I loved my first piece. I pull my yarn out from the middle. Okay, it's a little tight. Ooh, that was a little thinner. It's totally fine. I promise you we're gonna get the same outcome, but I'm just surprised. As much as I do prep for these videos, sometimes I surprise myself. We're gonna start with our slip knot, just like before. Putting our hook in, and then we're gonna chain. So you can either chain the length of the scarf or the width. I highly recommend chaining the width because it will just be a little more entertaining, I'll say. Sometimes long rows as new crocheters can feel a little frustrating because it doesn't feel like you get to the end. So we're gonna make shorter rows, and then you can make it as long as you want. In this yarn, I'm gonna test it out myself, but you should need 1, and then you'll get a whole huge scarf. I'm not counting, but I will in a moment. And I'm trying to see how wide our scarf should be. I just moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana from Las Vegas, so I wanna say I'm not a scarf expert. Love to make them. Wear them? Haven't really done that, but this winter is gonna have to be different. I like that, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Perfect. And then if you want to go to 20, you could. Oh, pretty close. I'm going to add 1 more for my turning chain, which is just like we did before. And then we're going to do the exact same techniques as we did with our little swatch on the scarf. Oop, my first one's a little difficult because I'm right by the knot, but that's okay. You might just have to grab it with your fingers. I got to the end. If I counted, I should have 19 stitches. Chaining 1 and then going back. And then you're going to do this the entire way. For this example in this video, I'm probably not going to do the entire piece, but I'm gonna do enough to show a color change, and then we're gonna do some tassels at the end. So now that you are officially a beginner crocheter and not a newbie, go ahead and pause this video, and it might take you a day or two. That's a-okay. You can save this video and come back later. Make sure you subscribe so you stay connected, and you're gonna finish the scarf. And then once we're finished, we'll cut it off and weave in our ends just like I showed, and we're gonna add tassels. I'll show you how to add tassels. So go ahead and pause or come back later to this video once you're finished with your scarf so that we can add tassels together. Okay, I just made a sample. I did not finish. I'm gonna cut off a little bit, and then you know how to weave in the ends because that's what I showed before, but I wanted to show you how to get your tassels. So you can either eyeball it or you can use a measuring tape, but basically you want about 10 inches. I'm going to do about 10 inches, and then you can cut a whole bunch of strands at once, but I'm just showing you one right now. You're going to fold this in half. On the bottom, you're going to insert your hook into the bottom chain, but you'll want to do it on both sides. hook your yarn, pull through, and then pull it through. Yep, it's really that easy. So if you make these all the same size, it'll be a little easier at the end, or you can just eyeball it for now and then go back with a larger pair of scissors and you can cut them all at once. But you're going to continue that all the way down. There she is, my little sample scarf. If you want these fringe to be a little thicker, you can do more than one strand in each chain, or remember, do the other end too. My scarf just obviously isn't finished. I hope you had a great time following this tutorial. Please comment below any questions you have and what you think our next beginner-friendly project should be. I really hope you were able to make your swatches and you learned crochet for the first time, and you can officially say you were not a newbie, but you are a beginner. So let me know in the comments, go ahead and give this video a like, and please subscribe so you can find out more about crochet and learning and new projects and tutorials. We're trying to get out a lot of videos to you guys. Again, my name is Kendall. Thank you so much for joining me here at Amy's Crafts.